Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Hobby Night. This week I will be your painting master, and I will show you how to paint a Chaos Cultist. Do you hear those drums?
Wah! Today we're painting an orc. Hey guys, welcome back to Hobby Night. I'm Angela, and because 9th edition is essentially out, we thought it would be a cool idea to basically paint a troop choice from every faction. We've already done our Space Marine, we've already done our Plague Marine, so next we're gonna go back to our Green Boys and we're gonna paint an orc. So let's go ahead and get to it and paint this boy up. Since I will be using contrast paints on my Ork Boy, I went ahead and primed him in Wraithbone. With our primer dry, we're going to go ahead and take Plaguebearer flesh along with our medium shade and apply this to the skin tone. Now we will be darkening this and making the skin tone a little bit more green later on down the line, but we're going to be doing that near the end using Biel-Tan shade. But for right now, I just want the Plaguebearer flesh to give me a good foundation to work from to build up this really, really bright, vivid green, because I've been really into bold colors lately and I want to continue that trend on these orcs. So we're going to really push that. I'm going to pull out all of the bold colors that I have and really make this guy super bright. The next color that I'm going to be using is Talassar blue on his shirt, and I went with this color primarily because I actually was looking through the Orc Codex and I really like the freebooters, and one of them had like a blue and red banner because it was a Jolly Roger, which I think they called like it was a Jolly Orc, I think is what they called, which I thought was fantastic, and I really, really like the look of it. So we went with the blue shirt. We're going to use the red here in a moment on the pants, and we're just applying this with our normal small base brush. Now on to the pants, and we're going to use Blood Angel's red on that, as well as our small base brush again, so that we have a little bit more control and try not to get this paint too many places we don't want it. We are almost finished with the majority of his basic clothing, and the last bit is to use Black Templar on his shoes. Now, normally I would use Black Templar or Basilicum Gray on the weapons of some of my miniatures. You may have seen me do that in the past to give a matte metallic look. In this instance, we're actually not going to do that. Down the line here in a little bit, you'll see that we're going to actually use a true metallic on this guy, and it turns out really nice. I like the subtle, soft contrast of that metallic with our contrast paints. Speaking of which, we do need to do a little bit of cleanup on our miniature, so we're going to go and touch up a few places where we may have gotten some of our brighter, bolder colors in places we didn't want them. And as you can see, he's now ready for us to move on to the next steps, which will be using our metallic. We're going to use Leadbelcher, which I don't actually know if I've used on the channel before, but it's a really great color. A lot of people will probably recommend it to you. We're just going to apply this to his weapon, the choppa, as well as his gun, as well as his shoulder piece, and then the plate that he actually has on both his chest and his back. While I'm waiting for my metallics to dry, I'm going to move on to the leather bits, and we're going to use Fireslayer flesh for that. We're going to apply this to basically everything on him that is sort of strappy, with the exception of his belt, and we're also not going to put this on his glove. We're reserving those two things for a different color. and that color is Gryph-Hound Orange. I was originally debating doing this color in a purple, but the two contrast colors that I have for purple I didn't think were going to quite work with the blue and red that I already chosen, and I wanted to save a yellow for the skull that's actually on his belt buckle, so we decided to go with orange for this because it really worked with the two colors I had. It's gonna really pop against the green that his skin will turn into, and it just looks fantastic. Continuing along with our detail work, we're now going to use Fleshshade Red and our small, fine-tipped Da Vinci brushes and dab this into his mouth. I'm going to take a little bit of Iyanden yellow and gently dab this onto his belt buckle just to give it a little color. I have one final bit of detail work to do, and that is by applying Skeleton Horde to his teeth, his nails, and the skull on his choppa. And then basically after that, barring the fact that I haven't put a texture paint on his base yet, I would actually consider this miniature to be battle ready and playable and totally usable. And honestly, he looks fantastic for just being a bit of contrast paint, no shades, and a bit of metallic. And it's really kind of cool that you can get that effect with not a whole lot of effort pretty easily, meaning that if you do want to make sure your army is painted for 9th, you can do it fairly quickly. I do, however, want to take this guy to the next level, so I'm going to start by drilling out the barrel of his gun and also applying a little bit of Black Templar in there to darken it. Next, I'm going to be taking Carroburg Crimson and applying this shade to his pants. Following that, I recently picked up Reikland Fleshshade, and I thought it would be a good chance to try it on our oranges and a couple of the other leather tones on the miniature. Now I will be applying 0 shades to the blue. There is a Citadel color that GW makes that is a blue shade, but I don't have that particular color right now, and I really didn't want to darken that color at all, so we're going to avoid that if we can. Now we're going to focus on all of the metallic bits, and we're going to start by applying Nuln oil to basically all of them in a fairly light covering, but making sure that we get it into the recesses so that the barrel of the gun, as well as the little like holes on the side and all those grooves and everything, make sure they get thoroughly covered. And we especially want to make sure that we kind of let this settle onto the metal plates on both his chest and his back, because there's not a lot of detail there, and this will add just enough to give it a hint of texture. You always want to make sure that your shades are thoroughly dry before you start applying other colors to them, so in the meantime, while my Nuln oil is drying on my metallics, I'm going to go ahead and take our Astrogranite and apply this to the base. Next up, we're going to go back to our Blood Angels Red, and we're going to apply this to some select areas on both the choppa as well as the gun, because obviously this will make him being able to swing his choppa faster and shoot his gun faster as well, because red obviously makes things go faster. Plus, I wanted to add a pop of color to it, and I thought this would be the most appropriate. The final thing that I will be doing to enhance our metal portions of the miniature is by taking Necron Compound and my small dry brush and gently dry brushing this metallic color over basically all the remaining metal bits, including the red portions that we had done, because I want to give it sort of a worn effect. Obviously, this Ork Boy has been using these weapons to go into the battlefield and fight lots of things, and so we want to give it a little bit of age, a little bit of this worn look. And Necron Compound really works well with Leadbelcher to sort of brighten it and make it look chipped, and you get a really neat effect. This Ork Boy is almost finished. There are only two things we have left. We're going to take this Reikland Fleshshade one more time and we're going to apply it to the base. This is going to just add a very subtle brown tone to that nice blue-gray that we have and make it look a little dirty. And then last but not least, we're going to take Biel-Tan shade and apply this all over his skin to really make this orc finally come together and be the true green boy that he should be. We're going to use a small base brush for this, despite the fact that while there are some large areas that we could use a larger brush to do some coverage with this paint, I want to make sure that I only apply this onto the Plaguebearer flesh and make sure we don't get it on any of our other colors, because we don't want to make them accidentally green and have to go back and do too much touch up if we can avoid it. So we're going to take it slow and just apply this in time as we need to, making sure to really spread this paint around and get a nice coverage. And here he is, our bright, cartoony Ork Boy, and I absolutely love him. I actually really like this style for the orcs. I know that there's some like grimdark stuff that we sort of saw in other eras, but I really like I think it's like 2nd and 3rd edition versions of orcs where they're really bright and cartoony, super bold colors, and I feel like I captured that pretty well. This guy is from Blackreach, so not quite from that era, but it works, and honestly, the contrast paint on this orc really brought out some exceptional details that I don't really remember from back when I got started playing the game, so it's really cool to see this older mini really start to stand out and get all this really nice detail out of him using these paints. But we went with the classic metal look as well, and the combo of it really, really works for me. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you like the bright cartoony look? Do you like the more grimdark look? But don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and I'll see you guys next time.